After my husband died, I kept quiet about the fact that he had signed the whole company over to me. At the memorial service, my son gave a smug smile and said, "Mom, I'm the boss now. Your job is to clean my office bathroom." He had no idea what kind of surprise was waiting for him at the office the very next morning. 40 days. 40 days. People say that on the 40th day, the soul finally says goodbye to the world of the living. I sat deep in an armchair in the parlor of our Hamptons estate, and it felt like my own soul was getting ready to leave too, ready to follow him, my Victor. The house was full of people. Soft voices filled the air. Glasses clinked quietly. There was a light smell of expensive perfume mixed with the heavy, sweet scent of the lilies I had arranged for the service. Everything was done properly, just the way it should be for remembering a man like Victor Holloway, the founder of Sterling Reserve. From the outside, it probably looked like I, his widow, was the center of all this sadness. But I wasn't. I felt like I was standing behind glass, watching everything from a distance, like a silent scene in a play. Everyone who came up to me said the same things. "Maya, stay strong. Victor was a great man. What a terrible loss." I nodded, thanked them, and even forced something that looked like a smile. But their eyes went right past me. They didn't really see me. They only saw Victor's shadow, his partner, his boss, his friend. To them, I was just a beautiful, well-kept accessory to Victor's brilliance. They saw the woman who, for 40 years, planned perfect dinner parties, chose the right tablecloths, and made sure every guest's glass was never empty. None of them knew that during those very dinners, under the sound of clinking glasses and the quiet crackle of the fireplace, the most important deals were being sealed. None of them knew that it was me, just Maya, who spent hours on the phone with Belgian chocolatiers and French meat suppliers, talking not about contracts, but about their children, their gardens, their happiness, and their struggles. Victor used to call it the social glue. He always said, "Maya, I build the walls, but you fill the house with life. Without you, it's just a box of stone." Now, that box felt empty. Resting on my lap was a slim folder made of embossed leather. I hadn't let it out of my sight since the day the notary, an old family friend, handed it to me. "This is Victor's final wish," he had said. "He asked me to give this to you personally, and only after the official will was read to everyone else." The official will was exactly what everyone expected. The estate, the city penthouse, the investment accounts, everything was split between my son and me. But the company wasn't mentioned at all in those papers. Everything about the company was right here in this folder. I knew what was inside. I had glanced through it once at the notary's office and never opened it again. I couldn't. It felt too painful, like betraying Victor, to read about a future without him when my heart still felt frozen in place. 100% of the shares of Sterling Reserve were transferred to me alone. It was his final gift to me, his final show of trust. Without thinking, I ran my fingers over the smooth leather cover. It was the only thing that felt real in this noisy, blurry crowd of strange faces and empty words. Poor Maya. How will she survive on her own now? I overheard two women whispering near the fireplace. Victor handled everything. She was fine because she was just his wife. I wasn't offended. They were only saying what everyone believed. What it seemed even my own son, Grant, believed. I searched the room for him and finally found him. He wasn't grieving at all. He looked lively and confident. He stood in the middle of a group of men in expensive suits, our top executives, talking passionately, waving his hands as he explained something. A confident corporate smile sat on his face. He was already stepping into his father's role. I saw it in the way he moved, the way he adjusted his tie, and the way he lightly patted our chief financial officer, Arthur Vance, on the shoulder, like someone already in charge. There was an impatient excitement about tomorrow, the day he believed he would become the full and unquestioned owner. My heart tightened with a new kind of pain. It wasn't grief anymore. It was something cold and sharp. Victor loved his son deeply, but he was never blind. "He has your drive, Maya," he once told me one evening in his study. "But he lacks your soul. He sees numbers, not people. I fear that one day, it will destroy him." Grant noticed me watching him. He wrapped up his conversation and said goodbye to his audience, then walked toward me. Arthur Vance, our longtime family friend, followed closely behind him like a loyal assistant. Mom. Grant stopped in front of me, blocking the light from the tall floor lamp. His voice, usually so much like Victor's, sounded different now. There was a hard, metallic edge to it that I had never heard before. We need to talk. He didn't wait for my answer. He led me toward the buffet table, filled with the elegant appetizers I had personally chosen that morning: imported caviar, delicate pâtés, rare cheeses. Everything that represented the pride of our company. The work of his father's entire life. I've been thinking, he said, picking up a canapé topped with black caviar. He didn't even look at it. He just placed it into his mouth as if it were his right. Starting tomorrow, I officially take over. Dad's office is mine now. You'll need to clear out his personal things, and yours too, from the estate. I plan to redecorate and host corporate events here. You understand, right? He continued smoothly. You won't be comfortable here anymore. You'll move into the city penthouse. It's smaller, but it'll be enough for just you. He said it so casually, like he was rearranging furniture. As if he wasn't pushing me out of the home where I had lived for 40 years, where every corner carried a memory of his father. I stayed silent. A strange numbness spread through my chest. Grant noticed my silence and smirked. He took it as agreement, as the confusion of a weak woman who needed to be reminded of her place. Oh, and one more thing, he added, wiping his fingers on a napkin. You'll get a pension, so don't worry. But sitting around doing nothing isn't good for you at your age. You need to stay engaged. He looked me up and down, judging me, and a clear flash of contempt passed through his eyes. Well, he said softly, leaning closer, you can start by cleaning my office bathroom. He said it quietly, almost intimately. The words were filled with poison, with a clear desire to humiliate me. The air around us seemed to freeze. In that moment, something inside me broke, or maybe something new was formed. The heavy weight of grief in my chest didn't disappear, but it was suddenly covered with a thin layer of ice. The sounds around me, the clinking glasses, the voices, the music, faded away, as if someone had flipped an invisible switch. I stopped smelling the lilies and the expensive cigars. The world narrowed to just two things: my son's satisfied face and the smooth, cool leather folder resting on my lap. With painful clarity, I understood that he hadn't just insulted me. On the day of his father's memorial, in the home his father built, he had trampled on Victor's memory. He hadn't only humiliated his mother. He had humiliated 40 years of life, 40 years of partnership, 40 years of love, the foundation on which this entire empire stood. Instead of blood, icy water flowed through my veins. Calm, clear, not anger, clarity. The man standing in front of me was no longer my son. He was a stranger, a man who was about to destroy everything Victor and I had built. The change inside me was complete. The fight over inheritance had not yet begun. The fight for honor had. I slowly turned away from the buffet table. I didn't say a word to Grant. I didn't even look at him. The cold calm inside me felt stronger than armor. I walked through the parlor, past the sympathetic faces and whispered condolences. I climbed the stairs to our master bedroom and closed the door behind me. The noise of the memorial felt like it belonged to another lifetime. My life, the one before this day, had ended 40 days ago. The one I still had an hour earlier ended with my son's final words. I waited until the last car drove away and the house felt completely silent. Only then did I leave the bedroom and walk down to the first floor. The house smelled of burned candles, lilies, and betrayal. Without turning on the lights, I walked down the hallway to Victor's study. This room was the heart of the house. The center of his life. Dark oak walls, shelves reaching the ceiling, and the large desk where his half-empty cup of tea still sat. I lowered myself into his large leather chair. It still held his warmth. His scent, sandalwood and fine tobacco. How many nights had I sat across from him, listening to his plans, his worries, his dreams. Sterling Reserve was never just a business. It was our shared creation. Born from love for quality and respect for tradition. Your place is cleaning my office bathroom. The words echoed in the silent room. They didn't bring tears. The tears were gone. Instead, they sparked a cold curiosity. How could a man raised in this house, who watched his father build everything piece by piece, fall so low? How could he strip all meaning from what defined our family? To him, the company was just a machine. Assets. warehouses, supply chains. He thought sitting in his father's chair and hanging his own portrait on the wall would keep it running, printing money. He didn't understand that Victor didn't build a machine. He built a family that stretched far beyond this house, into Brussels, onto Ceylon plantations, into small fishing villages along the coast of France. Families who had spent generations perfecting chocolate, tea, and caviar. People for whom honor wasn't a word, but a way of life. That was why my first thought wasn't about lawyers. Showing Grant the will would have been too easy. That was his language, documents, authority, power. It wouldn't have changed him. It would only have made him hate me more. No, I needed to speak to him in his father's language. The language he never learned. I reached into the bottom drawer of the desk and pulled out a thick leather-bound journal. It was my personal notebook. Not business contacts, we had secretaries and databases for that. This book held personal numbers. People I called to congratulate on a grandchild, ask about their health, or simply talk. Victor used to laugh and call it my spiderweb. My dear, he'd say, you've woven your web around half the world. Our partners stay with us not because of contracts, but because of your invisible threads. Now it was time to test those threads. I opened the book to the letter D. Charlotte Dubois, owner of a small but legendary chocolate factory in Brussels. We met 35 years ago at a Paris exhibition. Our husbands talked business while we escaped for coffee and became friends. Since then, she had been more than a partner. She was family. I dialed her number. The phone rang slowly. Hello? Charlotte, my dear, it's Maya. Oh my goodness, Maya. I was thinking about you all day. How are you? How was the service? Her voice was warm and full of kindness. I closed my eyes and let that warmth reach my frozen heart. It went as it should, I said softly. Many people came. Everyone remembered Victor. He was a great man, Maya. A rare one. I lit a candle for him at the cathedral. Thank you, Charlotte. That means everything. I paused, choosing my words carefully. I'm calling because there will be some changes. Grant is taking over. There was a brief silence. I understand, Charlotte said slowly. Grant is a good boy, but he's different. A child of the new century. Yes, I said quietly. Exactly. I just wanted to check in with old friends. To say thank you. I hear you, Maya, she replied firmly. You can always count on me. No matter what happens, call me anytime. That's all I needed to hear. We said goodbye. I stayed still for a moment. The first thread held strong. Stronger than steel. I turned the page. Sri Lanka. Mr. Sundareem, owner of the tea plantations that supplied our exclusive blend. His father had worked with Victor's father. I remembered him flying in for our 25th anniversary, bringing a tea sapling that still grew in our conservatory. I called him. As always, he was polite and respectful. We spoke about his family, the new harvest. Then, carefully, I mentioned the change in leadership. He went silent for a long moment, then spoke gently, with his soft accent. Madam Maya, our family has worked with your family for 2 generations. To us, Sterling Reserve is Mr. Victor and you. Everything else is just words on paper. We remember kindness. The third call was to France, to Monsieur Lauren. His small, family-run business supplied us with the finest island caviar in the world. He was an artist in his work, a true poet of his craft. He spoke about caviar the way some people speak about music. Victor admired his obsession with quality. Our conversation was short. I told him that changes were coming and that the new generation of businessmen might no longer value old friendships. He replied calmly, Madam Holloway, there are things that cannot be sold. Reputation is one of them. My reputation is tied to yours. I will not forget this. When I ended the third call, I felt the ice in my chest slowly begin to melt. Something new took its place. It wasn't hope. It was certainty. My spiderweb was still strong. For 40 years, I had woven it with threads of friendship, respect, and human warmth. Now, that spiderweb was turning into a net that would soon trap the man who thought he was the hunter. I closed the notebook. The study was still dark and quiet, but the silence no longer felt heavy. It felt powerful. I had made my first move, not as a hurt mother or a humiliated widow, but as the true owner of Sterling Reserve. My son didn't know it yet, but the war for the soul of his father's company had already begun, and I had no intention of losing. The coup had started. I stayed in the study until dawn. When the first gray light touched the spines of the books, I stood up and quietly returned to my bedroom. I didn't sleep. I simply waited. I waited for the sound of footsteps on the stairs. For the sound of the front door closing. That sound marked the beginning of his new day. The day he believed was his victory. I didn't see it myself, but I know my son. I know Arthur too. I could picture every detail of his first day at the office, the day he thought his empire would begin. He surely arrived at exactly 9 o'clock. Not a minute late. He walked into the building filled with the scent of Ceylon tea, Belgian chocolate, and old wood, the smell of legacy. A scent he probably didn't even notice. To him, it was just the smell of money. His father's secretary, Ms. Davis, a woman who had worked with us from the very beginning, must have met him at the door with tears in her eyes. "Mr. Grant Holloway, please accept my condolences." I'm sure he only nodded impatiently and said, "Thanks, Ms. Davis. Get me a black coffee, no sugar. And send Vance in." The first thing he did after entering his father's study was take down Victor's portrait. It was a large oil painting in a heavy frame, painted about 10 years earlier. Victor smiled in it, calm, wise, with a quiet sparkle in his eyes. To me, that portrait was more than decoration. It was the soul of the office. Its conscience. Grant didn't hesitate. He turned it face down and leaned it against the wall like useless junk. In its place, he hung his own glossy photograph in a thin metal frame. Young, arrogant, a sharp, predatory smile. His eyes looked past people, as if they were invisible. The look of a man who saw the world as an Excel sheet. Then Arthur Vance entered the room. Our CFO. A family friend. A man Victor had mentored, supported, and personally brought into the company. Arthur had always been the perfect flatterer. He slightly bent his back, spoke in a soft, respectful tone, and looked up at people as if in admiration. He appeared loyal and humble. But I knew better. Behind that mask was a cold, calculating mind. "Grant, Mr. Holloway," Arthur likely said, stopping at the doorway with fake respect. "Congratulations. You're finally in your rightful place. Victor would be proud." "Spare me, Arthur," I could almost hear my son reply, his voice sharp and impatient. Dad was a genius, but his methods are outdated. Sentiment, personal relationships. That's not how business works in the 21st century. It's time to clean house. Time to optimize. He sat in his father's chair. It must have been too big for him, but he didn't notice. He looked around the office like an owner and rubbed his hands together. "All right," he said. "First order of the new management." He paused for effect. "We cut costs. Immediately. I've seen the reports. Our suppliers are sitting on a gold mine. For decades, they've set their own prices, hiding behind stories of exclusivity and handmade quality." "Enough." "Absolutely, Grant," Arthur must have said eagerly. "Procurement is our biggest expense. But those old suppliers are sensitive. Victor spent years building those relationships." Grant laughed. A cold, unpleasant laugh. "He bought those friendships with our money. And honestly, my mother handled all that nonsense. Her tea parties, endless phone calls, Christmas gifts. Think of the wasted time. The wasted money. Total inefficiency." I imagined him leaning back in the chair, his voice carrying the same contempt I heard the day before. "She's just a sentimental old woman, Arthur. She surrounded herself with dinosaurs. She thinks friendship pays bills. But you and I know the truth." He leaned forward. "The world isn't run by smiles. It's run by money. Cold, hard cash." "So," Arthur likely asked, his voice filled with the hungry interest of a predator smelling blood, "what do you suggest?" "It's simple," Grant said. "Prepare a standard email right now and send it to all our key suppliers. Charlotte in Brussels, the tea supplier in Sri Lanka, the French caviar people. Keep it short and direct. Due to a change in leadership and a new company business policy, we demand a 20% reduction in purchase prices across all products. The new terms take effect immediately." "That's it," he continued. "No politeness. No, dear partners. This is business. They either accept our terms, or we find someone else. No one is irreplaceable." Arthur must have frozen for a moment. Even for him, this was extreme. "Grant, this is risky," he said carefully. "They may take offense. These aren't big corporations. They're family businesses. They are businessmen." Grant cut him off. And businessmen know how to count money. They'll complain at first. They'll cry about hard times. But when they realize they might lose their biggest client, they'll fall in line. Trust me, the old ways are gone. A new era has begun. An era of efficiency. I could picture Arthur glancing at the new portrait on the wall, then back at Grant's confident face. Slowly, a smile of understanding spread across his lips. He saw strength, or what he believed was strength. "You're right," Arthur said, his voice turning smooth and eager again. "Absolutely right. It's time to shake this sleepy kingdom awake. I'll prepare the draft email immediately." "Perfect," Grant must have said with satisfaction. "Send it out today. No more wasting time while my mother plays solitaire at the estate and mourns the past. We're building the future." He was wrong about one thing. I wasn't playing solitaire. I was waiting exactly for this moment. For their fatal, arrogant mistake. That day, from our office, from the heart of my husband's company, a wave of short, cold emails was sent across the world. Every sentence was an insult. Every number was a slap in the face of 40 years of trust and friendship. They clicked send, believing they were starting a process of optimization. They had no idea they had started a process of self-destruction. I wasn't wrong. The responses, or rather, the silence, came the very next day. No calls, no emails, no replies. In Grant's world of big corporations, silence meant agreement or the start of negotiations. But in our world, the world of Mr. Sundaram, Mr. Lauren, and Charlotte Dubois, silence was the harshest judgment of all. It meant contempt. It meant you no longer existed. I knew Grant and Arthur saw this silence as a victory. I could almost picture them sitting in Victor's study, sipping cognac, congratulating each other. "See, Arthur?" Grant would say. "I told you they'd swallow it. Now they know their place." Their smugness was so predictable that I could feel it, even from miles away, in the quiet of the estate. Meanwhile, I was doing what I had always done, taking care of life in this house. I was repotting Victor's favorite orchids. He used to say they were like me, delicate on the outside, but strong and unbreakable inside. I gently cleaned the roots and prepared fresh soil. The steady, familiar work calmed me. It felt real, unlike the rushed, hollow chaos happening at the company. Then the phone rang. I recognized the number. Brussels. My heart paused for a second, then began to beat steady and strong. It had begun. May. Charlotte's voice was different, not just serious. It was hard, like steel, tight with controlled anger. "Yes, Charlotte, I'm listening. I received it," she said sharply. This letter from your son." She said the words like they burned her mouth. "It's not a letter. It's a slap in the face. A 20% demand after 35 years of partnership? After everything between our families? Does he think we're faceless factory suppliers? Does he think my chocolate is just cocoa and sugar measured by stock prices?" I stayed silent and let her speak. Her anger was justified. It was the anger of someone whose honor had been insulted. "My husband, God rest his soul, would turn in his grave," she continued. "Victor and I worked on a handshake for 20 years before signing a contract. His word meant more than paper. And now this boy." "I know, Charlotte," I said softly. "I know. And I'm so sorry you had to read that." "Sorry?" she snapped. "I'm not sorry. I'm furious. I've already prepared a termination notice. My chocolate will never appear in your stores again." She stopped suddenly and took a deep breath. "But that's not why I'm calling," she said, her voice changing, lower, tense, uneasy. "That letter was an insult. What happened an hour later is much worse." I froze, the orchid pot still in my hands. Soil spilled onto the floor, but I didn't notice. "What happened, Charlotte?" I received a formal inquiry from the legal department of Omni Corp. At that name, the cold inside me stabbed straight through my heart. Omni Corp. The cheap, faceless giant that bought famous brands and drained the soul out of them. They kept the name and sold low-quality products made in massive factories. Victor hated them. He called them the gravediggers of quality. "They don't create," he used to say. "They destroy. They turn history, skill, and pride into numbers on a report." Barbarism in a business suit. What did they want? I asked, my voice hollow. "They asked to confirm the terms of my exclusive contract with Sterling Reserve," Charlotte said slowly. They informed me they are in the final stages of acquiring your company. Completely. My legs gave way. I sank onto a side table. The pot slipped from my hands and shattered. Soil and pale orchid roots scattered across the floor, but I heard nothing. Only the roar in my ears. This wasn't just betrayal. It was desecration. Grant and Arthur didn't just want to push me aside. They didn't just want to humiliate me. They planned to sell Victor's life's work to the one company he despised most. They were going to sell his name, his reputation, his legacy to the gravediggers of quality. Now everything made sense. Their cruelty, their speed. The 20% demand wasn't greed, it was preparation. They wanted to show OmniCorp they could squeeze suppliers and boost profits before selling the company like livestock at a market. And Arthur Vance, the family friend, had been part of it all. He comforted me at the memorial while secretly cutting deals behind my back. He used my son's greed and ego to enrich himself. My blood turned to ice. Grant's insult at the memorial hurt me. This was a knife in Victor's back. The dead cannot defend their honor. So I would. The battle for the company was already over. This was war. A war for my husband's soul. And I could not lose. Charlotte, my dear, I said calmly, with a firmness that surprised even her. I ask one thing of you. Don't send any official response yet. Do something else, I continued. Tell everyone. Call Mr. Sundaram. Call Mr. Lauren. Tell them about OmniCorp's request. They need to know their names and reputations are about to be sold. There was a pause, then a quiet, sharp breath. I understand, May, Charlotte said. Her anger was gone. What remained was cold, focused resolve. Consider it done. The gravediggers will not feast. After the call, I went into the garden. The air was cool and clear. I picked up my shears and walked to the rose bushes. This was my ritual, my refuge. As I trimmed dead blooms and dry branches, I wasn't just cleaning the plants. I was clearing my thoughts. Each snip echoed like a countdown. Across the invisible threads of my web, the message was spreading, from Brussels to Sri Lanka, from France to Italy, from Spain and beyond. The old world was ending, and something powerful was waking up. This was not a business message. It was a cry for help. A warning passed from one old friend to another. News that Sterling Reserve was in danger. That it was about to be looted by people who did not care about its soul. I already knew how this would end. The unveiling. Meanwhile, somewhere in downtown Manhattan, inside a cold glass conference room, my son was celebrating what he believed was his victory. I wasn't there, but I could picture every moment clearly. He stood at the head of a long table made of dark, polished wood. Across from him sat 3 people in equally expensive, empty-looking suits, the leaders of OmniCorp. They wore the same watches, the same tight smiles, and had the same lifeless eyes. Eyes of people who saw the world only as numbers, charts, and stock prices. Grant felt on top of the world. He was proud. He stood confidently as a presentation played on the large screen behind him. Slide after slide flashed by: logistics optimization, profit growth, market potential, brand synergy. He threw around fancy business words, not realizing that behind every number were real people, families, and traditions built over centuries. He was selling something he had never created. Worse, he didn't even try to understand its true value. And as you can see, gentlemen, he said confidently, pointing a laser at a chart, after our recent work with suppliers, we expect a 20% drop in purchasing costs as early as this quarter. This frees up capital and makes Sterling Reserve even more attractive as an asset. He paused, clearly waiting for praise. The OmniCorp men didn't clap. They only gave small nods. To them, this was nothing special. At that moment, the phone on the table buzzed. Sam Jones, warehouse manager. Grant frowned. What terrible timing. He snorted softly and swiped the call away without even looking. So, he continued, forcing his proud smile back, we are offering you not just a company, but a perfectly tuned machine with huge potential. And most importantly, exclusive long-term contracts for the finest delicacies in the world. That is our greatest treasure. The phone buzzed again. Sam Jones, warehouse manager. Now Grant's irritation was obvious. How dare a warehouse worker interrupt him while millions were being discussed? He rejected the call again and flipped the phone face down. One of the men in suits raised an eyebrow slightly. Grant opened his mouth to deliver the grand ending of his speech, but he never finished. The conference room door suddenly burst open. Standing there was Sam Jones himself. An older man who had worked with Victor for 30 years. Pale, shaken, still wearing his work jacket. He looked completely out of place in this glass and steel room. "Mr. Holloway," he gasped, ignoring the cold stares from the Omnicorp executives. "Sam Jones, have you lost your mind?" Grant snapped, his face red with rage and embarrassment. "I'm in a meeting. Get out." "The ships?" Sam stammered, not even hearing him. "The ships." Everyone turned. A heavy silence filled the room. "What?" Grant asked, confused. "All of them," Sam said, his voice shaking. "Every single one. The port just called. Notices came in from Brussels and Ceylon. All shipments are refused. Everything is stopped. Even the ships already at sea are turning back." Grant stood frozen. The color drained from his face. His confident smile vanished, replaced by the stunned look of a lost child. Behind him, the profit chart still glowed brightly on the screen. Now it looked like a cruel joke. The Omnicorp men exchanged quiet looks. There was no shock, no sympathy, only cold calculation. One of them slowly closed his laptop. The click echoed through the room like a gunshot. "It appears," he said calmly to his colleagues, not even looking at Grant, "that there is nothing left to negotiate." Their deal depended on one thing: exclusive suppliers they could not get on their own. Without Belgian chocolate, French caviar, and Ceylon tea, Sterling Reserve was just an empty shell with a fancy name. And now, that shell had collapsed. My son's humiliation was complete. And worse, it was public. He stood among the ruins of what he thought was his victory, in front of the very people he had tried to impress, having shown them not greatness, but his own emptiness. The surprise had begun. The verdict was delivered. I didn't see them leave the room. I didn't see my son standing alone, pale and broken, in the place that was supposed to crown his success. But I knew what would come next. Anger, confusion, and then the search for someone to blame. In their twisted thinking, anyone but themselves could be guilty. I waited for them in the garden. I wasn't hiding. I was exactly where I belonged, in the world I had built and cared for over decades. The sun warmed my shoulders. The air was heavy with the sweet scent of blooming roses. I held my garden shears and carefully trimmed the dead blossoms to make room for new growth. This work required calm and patience. It did not allow rushing. I heard them before I saw them. First, the angry screech of tires at the gates, an ugly sound in this peaceful place. Then car doors slammed shut. Gravel crunched under fast, heavy steps. They didn't walk into the house. They stormed in. "Mom!" Grant shouted, his voice echoing through the house and spilling out onto the terrace. "Where are you?" I didn't answer. I gently cut a deep red, almost black rose and placed it into my woven basket. Moments later, they appeared on the path leading to the rose garden. They looked like trapped animals. Grant was a mess, jacket open, tie crooked, hair disordered. His face twisted with anger and despair. Arthur followed, trying to look calm, but his darting eyes and pale face gave away his fear. They stopped a few steps from me, breathing hard. Their tension polluted the calm of my garden like a wrong note in music. "Mom, what did you do?" Grant shouted. His voice broke. "What did you tell them?" I slowly straightened and looked at him. My face was calm. I felt no fear, no anger, only deep, cold pity. "What are you talking about, Grant?" "Don't play games," he yelled. "The suppliers cancelled everything. All contracts are gone. Shipments stopped. You called them. You ruined everything." Arthur placed a hand on Grant's shoulder, half to calm him, half to steady himself. "Ms. Holloway," Arthur said in his polite voice, now shaking with tension. "This is extremely serious. The company is frozen. We know you spoke to our partners. We demand that you call them right now and fix this misunderstanding. You must fix it." His words sounded like an order, from a servant who suddenly thought himself a master. I shifted my gaze from my son's furious face to Arthur's tense one. Then I turned back to the rose bush and carefully clipped another faded bloom. The sound of the shears was loud in the silence. "I didn't call them to cancel anything, Grant," I said quietly. "I called them as a friend, to say goodbye." Grant stared at me, confused. Goodbye? What are you talking about? Friendship? This is business. You don't understand any of this. You ruined everything with your old ways. No, I replied calmly. You didn't understand. I placed the shears into my basket and faced them both. Neither of you understood. You thought your father's company was buildings, warehouses, numbers, and reports. But it was people. It was trust. Trust he built for 40 years, and that you destroyed in 2 days. I didn't tell them to stop shipments. I simply told them the old sterling reserve no longer existed, and they chose not to deal with the new one. That's a lie, Grant screamed. They wouldn't walk away over feelings. You poisoned them against me. I took a slow breath, filling my lungs with the scent of roses, the scent of the world I was about to protect. I only told them the truth, I said, looking straight into my son's eyes, then at Arthur. I told them that you disrespected them, that you insulted them with your ultimatum. I paused, letting my words sink in. And I also told them that you were trying to sell them, along with me and along with your father's legacy, to Omnicorp. The air froze. The buzzing bee near the rose bush suddenly went silent. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. They stood there like statues. The anger on Grant's face slowly faded, replaced first by confusion, then by pure fear. He stared at me as if I had spoken a cursed language. But Arthur looked worse. His calm, obedient mask shattered completely. Beneath it was the face of a trapped predator. His eyes went blank. His mouth fell open. He understood. Their biggest secret, the plan they had hidden so carefully, was no longer a secret. Their betrayal was fully exposed. They stood in my blooming garden, a place built on honor and respect, and their own lies were now choking them. Arthur was the first to recover. Fear sharpened survival instincts. Seeing the ground collapse beneath him, he made one last desperate move. His panic vanished, replaced by fake corporate urgency. His voice filled with false concern. "Mrs. Holloway," he exclaimed, stepping forward and half-shielding Grant. "Thank God you know. We didn't want to upset you until everything was finalized. You don't see the full picture." He spoke fast, afraid I might interrupt. "Yes, we were talking to Omnicorp. But it was necessary, the only way to save the company. You don't know the state Victor left things in. Debts, cash flow problems, old contracts. The company is close to bankruptcy." He was lying, boldly, desperately, right to my face. Grant clung to the lie like a drowning man to a rope. "Yes, Mom," he said quickly, hope shaking his voice. "Arthur's right. Dad hid things from us. We wanted to fix it first and then tell you. It's not too late." Arthur seized the moment. He opened the folder he'd been holding and pulled out some papers. "Here," he said, stepping closer and pushing them toward me. "You must sign this immediately. It's a power of attorney giving Grant emergency control. He can revive the deal with Omnicorp. This is our last chance. If you don't sign, the company will collapse tomorrow. You'll destroy your husband's life's work." This was their final move. Blackmail mixed with fear and lies. They were pressing every weak spot they thought I had. They still saw me as a fragile widow. They thought I would break. I didn't even look at the papers. I calmly set my basket of roses on the bench. Then I placed the shears inside it. Slowly, I took out the slim leather folder I had carried since the memorial. It felt cool and solid in my hands. "You mean these papers, Arthur?" I asked quietly. They stared at the folder, confused. To them, it meant nothing. I stepped forward. They stepped back. "Take it," I said. "Read." Arthur hesitated, then took it. His hands trembled as he opened it. I watched their faces change. First confusion, then shock, then terror. Arthur's face turned gray. His breathing grew shallow. The folder nearly slipped from his hands before Grant grabbed it. "What is it?" Grant snapped, then read it himself. I saw the truth hit him. The document was short and clear. Victor's final will. 100% ownership of Sterling Reserve transferred to me alone. They were silent. The world they built collapsed. I took the folder back and looked at my son. "My place is not cleaning your office bathroom, Grant," I said calmly. "My place is at the head of the table. The same table where your father built this company. And where you planned to betray him. You are both fired. You have 1 hour to collect your things. Be gone by evening." I turned back to my roses. Behind me, I heard gasps, hurried footsteps, car doors slamming. Then silence. They were gone. I stood alone among the roses. The air felt clean again. I picked up the broken orchid pot. The roots were still alive. It would bloom again. The next morning, I walked into the office as the owner. The scents of tea and chocolate greeted me like old friends. I removed Grant's portrait and returned Victor's to its rightful place. Then I took control. Omnicorp received a refusal. Arthur faced investigation. Justice began to move. Months later, surrounded by my friends, we launched a new product, my recipe. I smiled. Victor's legacy was safe, and mine had begun. Do you like my story, and which city are you listening from? Tell me in the comments. Thank you so much for your support. I'm looking forward to your comments. On the screen, you'll see 2 more life stories I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story, with love and respect.